Oh, Gayatri Mahamantra with your back straight. Om Bhurabhuvah Swaha Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yona Prachodaya. We come down to the part 4 of this series, Mystical Gayatri Mahamantra. Though there is nothing mystic about it, it is a science. But even in the science, anything short before its revelation appears to be mystical. And so the same goes with Gayatri too. Gayatri is such an enormous, the magnanimity of this particular knowledge is immense, beyond measure. If I have to use the most appropriate phrase, I'll say it is beyond measure. We are merely embarking upon an infinitesimal portion of it. The aspect we have taken is the self confidence. Whereas a while ago, as I mentioned, its enormity, its magnanimity is simply beyond measure. Self confidence is important to the complexity ridden of the mind of this day, especially when decision making becomes the most crucial aspect which has to be dispensed by a human that impacts the lives of many more. The course of direction of the entire ship may alter merely by decision making. So, therefore, self confidence is very important for all of us in our lives. With self confidence, we are able to gather ourselves, our entire individuality within and without is well integrated, and all the organs of our mind they start functioning at their optimum levels. So self confidence holds enough prominence and significance in our lives. That is why we have drawn this small aspect to embark upon the mystical aspects of Gayatri Mahamantra. In the last episode, number 3, we emphasized upon the need of a dharana. I'm not picking up any English word for that for a reason, since I do not find the appropriate one available to me. So, therefore, I choose to retain dharana. Affixed to a dharana, one can easily retain the focus of one's attention. One can certainly put a hold upon the voyage of the wandering mind, which unmindfully wants to charter on its own course. Even while sitting for a duration of 30 minutes, if you start counting, if it is possible, only then you will find that within 30 minutes you were able to shift between more than 10 to 15 different kinds of thoughts or imagination or seeking or a recall. So you can count. If that can happen in 30 minutes, what should be going on in 24 hours, especially the moments when things are not in your control? That is why most of us, when we sleep in a walk. And while we walk, we are in a sleep. Anyway, I'll not go beyond this for this matter. I must reiterate the need for a dharana. And in the last part of this series, it was emphasized to give yourself a grounded dharana of the image of the rising sun, which has been bestowed to us by our great masters as the idol, as the deity for Gayatri, that orange ball. Bring that ball before yourself, before your attention, to such an extent that it grounds and grounds to such levels that anywhere, in whomsoever, wherever you want to sight, you're easily able to sight the orange ball. So it means that your attention gets so morphed into the orange ball that your own attention becomes the orange ball. Any movement, anywhere, on whomsoever. Maybe if you're watching a pillar and instead of a pillar, the orange ball appears before your eyes. So that means not only with closed eyes, even with the eyes open, when you're able to sight your subject of dharana, that should be considered as dharana has now grounded. So we embarked upon the one part of the dharana, another resolve which was given to you to retain the wandering of your mind was, for those who were not comfortable with the orange ball, was the image of goddess mother Gayatri, which is easily available on a simple search on the internet. You can also give yourself that mother, the image of a mother, because as a mother, as a Shakti, as the female power, especially in our Sanatan Paddhati, we hold a great sanctity for them and we all propitiate them as Shakti. So you can also give yourself the image of Mother Gayatri, be seated upon swan with the lotus beneath. So that comes as a second resolve in order to retain the focus of your attention while you're undergoing or observing the japa, Gayatri Japa within. The primary idea was to retain the focus when you're observing japa. It should not happen that the power of the sound is accomplishing its part, undoubtedly, whereas the other part, which is required to create a fusion, and that is your attention through bhava, that goes missing. So that should not go missing, that should be available there, affixed to your practice. That is why we are discussing all these aspects. Above all, it is also very much important when you retain your focus while you're practicing your Gayatri Upasana, you feel accomplished when you get up. On the other hand, if you're lost into your wandering thoughts, your contemplation, then what happens? You do cherish the time, but you do not accomplish. So there is a difference between both. It seems that you have merely complied to a routine, but not accomplished. So for your deepest gratification, it is mandatory that you also affix your attention to a dharana so that the mind can be retained to one point. Now we come down to a third alternate. The two have already been discussed and reiterated. Now we come down to the third. What is the third? The third is when you are chanting that mantra. I'm using the word chanting. It could be propitiating, it could be uttering, it could be murmuring, whatever you say. But one thing is for clear, it was as it was mentioned in the part one, that when you even murmur, the sound has to be in such a manner that you do construct the words within your mouth, but the person sitting beside, right next to you, is not able to gather what exactly are you speaking, what are you murmuring. It has to be so slow. Is there a secret that the other person should not hear? No, there is no secret into that. There's nothing to confide for that matter. There is nothing to confide. But the reason is ultimately you have to transcend towards a practice of japa where it becomes silent. Short of silent, it is not japa. Short of silent incantation, it is a utterance. It can be seen as as something which you are chanting. So the difference between chant and a japa is japa goes silent. There is no construction of the word within your mouth. All these organs lie dormant, and the word gets constructed within your mind here, somewhere here, and then you release it into the cosmic mind. You go on releasing it to the cosmic mind. You're converting the words into a signal and you're releasing it. Right, like as it happens with the radio station, they don't raise their volume upon their microphones and speakers. Rather, they convert their sound into signals and they transmit it to the space, and thereby, depending upon the tower and the recipient's ability, the signals are caught. Somewhat similar goes with the science of the japa as well, mantra japa. So here, since we have ultimately to transcend into silent japa, therefore the practice must start at the first step itself in such a manner that you are not enslaved by the utterance, by the chanting, that it does not comfort me unless I am well able to listen to my own sound. Om Bhur Bhuva Swaya Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Deva Siddhi Mahityo Yona Prachita. Once you get enslaved with such a practice, it becomes very difficult to get released of it and then get inward. The ultimate objective is to become inward, and your words also have to become inward and silent. So, the first step thereby is to start by murmuring, so that you very well know that the sound which are going to be pronounced by me or going to be chanted by me are ultimately going to become more and more of low. The pitch is going to become more low, ultimately to extent that it should fade away, entirely fade away and become silent. So it is therefore that we murmur, not there is anything that we have to confide from the other person. Is that right with you? Fine. Now, this third resolve has to do something with this murmuring. You may be practicing while murmuring, or maybe that you already hold some proficiency within and you can also get on directly to silent japa. Whatever the case may be, you, in between, when you find that your mind is not able to retain its focus on the orange ball, okay, swap it or switch it over to Mother Goddess. Okay, watch your Mother Goddess Gayatri. Go on, fix your attention there. Go on observing your japa. Oh, I'm not able to retain anymore with Mother Goddess. Okay, come down to the third resolve. The third resolve is start observing the words that are being murmured, which means I am keenly observing within each and every single utterance as a murmur. This is going to retain your focus. Yes, it is going to retain your focus, and ultimately it shall also help you to get onward towards the silent japa. That may take a passage of time before you hold that proficiency to get into the silent japa. Even in the silent japa, when you're undergoing such a practice and you find a mind going unmindfully for a deflectionary exercise, okay, start observing the words silently being released as japa. You can observe that. Within yourself, you can observe the word in its silent state. The word, before it is constructed into gross form, has its silent state. So you can very well observe the word in a silent state within yourself. So while you are undergoing the japa, just observe the entire mantra within yourself. This shall certainly reduce the speed initially to some extent. Yes, initially the speed might be slightly reduced, but the moment you gather confidence within yourself that my pronouncement, my utterance, my chanting, my japa is perfect, intact, immediately you then transcend to a very high speed, because silent japa has got multiple times of higher speed than that we do while murmuring or by chanting in a vocal form. So this gives you as a third resolve in which you can swap. Now your job is what? Your job is, when you sit down for the japa, keep swapping and shifting between these three resolution, alternates, resolves. Swap them. If you find that you're not able to retain your attention to one, switch on to the next one. Not able to retain your attention to the second, switch on to the third one. Come back to the first one. So that gives the mind, because mind has a natural tendency, it has been programmed like that, to seek something different. It wants to seek something different. That's why, even in the outward life, something new to eat, something new to dress, some new design, what's new in the town. So, that renewing itself is the tendency of the mind. So, let us shift the mind from one focus of attention, one dharana, to another in order to serve it. We are serving it. We are serving it a cuisine to relish. A time may come, mind may seek something different. Do not worry. By then, you will have certain more experiences which will be able to retain you within yourself. But for the timing, these three alternates are really enough for the mind, in between you can switch and retain the focus of attention. Now comes, how do I handle my mind within myself when I'm chanting? And maybe my mind, without even my knowing, undergoes a deflectionary voyage. I realize it after a while. Yes, it happens. It happens. The mind is so clever. The moment it finds your vigilance, your alert going on autopilot, it immediately shall sneak away, silently sneak away. So it may happen so, but if it happens, then what is going to be your conduct within? Your conduct has to be understood in a very simple term. For example, you have been confined for a babysitting. You are in a babysitting, you're sitting with a baby, infant for about 4 to 6 months, started toddling slightly, has been placed upon a bed, since the floor is not that clean, not hygienic, placed on a bed, and as the toddlers would do, would always move towards the edge of the bed, unaware that they shall fall and get hurt. So, whose responsibility is it to ensure that they do not fall? It's your responsibility. So, what would you do? You can't make the baby sleep for long. It's not easy for you to make them sleep. You can't engage them into playful methods for long duration. Such a mind of a 4 to 6 months may not retain its focus of attention for more than a couple of minutes. Not easy for you. So, what do you do then? You simply make yourself available to ensure that the child does not harm. Wherever it wants to move, let it move on the bed itself, but does not fall. So what do? The moment it approaches near the edge of the bed, you grab the baby and place him or her in the middle of the bed, ensuring it's safe. And then you sit down right up front to ensure every time. Would the child relinquish of its practice? No, it shall never leave its practice. It shall keep coming towards the edge of the bed again and again, again and again. And what would you do? Irrespective of the number of time it approaches the edge, you will also not have any count of that. You will do the same thing. Even if you are done with that, even if you're tired, even if you scream within yourself, oh my God, where am I? Shall you leave and allow the fall to happen? Not a question at all. You shall never allow that to happen. And you will always ensure that the period given to you, assigned to you for babysitting, the child remains safe. The same has to be done with your mind. Your mind too is an infant, does not know what is good and what is bad of it. Yes, out of scare, it may be able to held for a particular conduct for a particular period of time. That may be also out of fear, but intrinsically that may not happen. So therefore, you ensure that the child does not fall. Same goes with the mind. Wherever you find mind deflecting, grab it, bring it in the middle of the bed, affix it to one of the resolve given to you among three: the orange ball, Goddess Gayatri, or observing your own chant, your own japa within. So, but ensure that you do not allow mind to fall, to deflect, come what may, any number of time, any number of days, any number of months, any number of years, you are going to do the same with yourself. Gradually, the mind also shall start understanding, like an animal, this man, this lady is not going to leave me like that. So there may be seldom opportunities for me to wander, especially when he or she is in Gayatri practice or Gayatri Upasana, but not otherwise. So therefore, mind will also relent, and you shall find reasonable amount of interlude where your focus of attention is retained, and there is a possibility for the fusion to transpire. Fusion of the focus of attention with the bhava, with dharana, and the chant of this sound, the vibration of the sound. So that will gather some place. So today you have learned about the third method which you are going to adopt in your practice, especially when you are in the practice of japa. You can even practice this not in the form of your regular practice, just to practice even during the day while you are moving or wherever you are, not while driving, I would say, especially not while driving or while handling anything which mandates your immediate attention right up front, not during those moments, but when you can afford to dispense with some sort of an experiment or practice, during those moments you may practice even in the day. Otherwise, during your routine practice of Gayatri sadhana, you should now adopt these three as your resolve. But let me tell you, the third one is within you. That is, the japa is going on within you. But for the other two, the former ones, for that you must ground their image. Unless you ground their image, the dharana is not going to work for the measure it has to. So, therefore, take a special premonition for that and ground that dharana and allow yourself to affix yourself. In between, let me take a question which has not recently come to me but keeps coming to me by email every now and then, even when we embarked upon the Hindi series of the same Gayatri Mahamantra. Then also the same question crept up, that there is a belief that some people say women cannot practice Gayatri Mahamantra. To all of those who hold any kind of ambiguity, doubt, or something, they may have heard it from anywhere, let me explicitly mention that this question was very well resolved by Pandit Mahamana Madan Moor Malviya ji during 1920s or 30s. I cannot recollect the exact year for that. This question, along with several other questions, came up before him, and he organized a very big congregation of the wise ones, especially those who held adequate command upon the scriptures. And then he asked them that do our primary scripture, that is the Upanishads, Veda, the Shruti, do they prohibit the women from Gayatri sadhana? Is it so? So that congregation was in Varanasi for a fairly long period of time, and finally they concluded, along with other objectives which they had to serve, this primary one also was there, one among them, that no, there is no mention in any of the scripture, especially the Shruti, that is something which is beyond any mutation, the immutable one. Leave aside other scriptures that probably came into existence later on as the Smriti, etc., but not in the Shruti. There is no such mention that prohibits ladies, barring that biological period of few days during when even they are not in the right and apt state of mood to do certain things, and that's why they can be certainly barred during those moments. But otherwise, there is no mention in any of the scriptures, especially corresponding a Shruti, that prohibits women from Gayatri Upasana. This aspect, though, was not a matter to be taken in this particular episode of the series, but yet has been taken because this question keeps cropping up every now and then. One or the other female sadhak would project this question as being heard from someone as an objection. So it goes to clarify all such queries corresponding to this particular ambiguity. Having said that, we'll be back again on Saturday's Sattva Gayatri series at 7:30 p.m. on next Saturday. You may share this knowledge with all like-minded ones. Till then, ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है, ओम ही सत्य है.